Hi, I'm Christina, and welcome to The Void. We're here with Obliviscaris, with Tim and Zen. How are you guys going?
Very well, thank you.
So you guys have had a pretty incredible year when you get right down to it. You guys raised $80,000 that 1,000 people helped you with. I mean, how did that kind of journey start?
You know, we were looking at, how to keep the band moving forward, and we wanted to tour internationally, and a lot of bands have been using crowdfunding campaigns to fund new albums, but we had a record label that was going to help do that, but what we didn't have was tens of thousands of dollars to tour the world, and we didn't have promoters that were willing to pay that for us because we had never been to any of those markets before, like Europe and the US, and I guess that presented us with that problem where we had opportunities but not really the money to pull it off, and came up with that crowdfunding idea, and thankfully it went even better than we could have hoped.
Yeah, I mean, where do you even start with like moments on these festival tours?
I think definitely Graspop is the start because it was the first major European festival we did.
Ever.
Yeah. And there was more than 5,000 people watching our set.
Probably one of the best shows we did.
And we played great, like, to be honest.
Smashed it.
We did, it was one of the best shows we had ever played, and it was one of those exciting things where it was just about the most important show we'd ever done, and we all walked off the stage going,
Fuck, we rule.
Yeah, like sometimes you'll be backstage and you'll have to remind yourself, it's kind of cool that we're sitting here with Max Cavalera and there's the guys from Evergrey, and he just forced me to swig a whole bunch of whiskey from his bottle, and and then you keep walking through and that's what it was like at the European festivals this year. It was even the fact actually when we met Max Cavalera, it turns out that his son, Igor, who's now the bass player in Soulfly, that he's a fan of ours, and his wife Aggie is like an enormous, super neo.
How cool is that?
So when we met Max Cavalera, she introduced us on the this is that Australian man I've been talking to you about.
How cool.
And so I thought that was cool that he already knew we existed before we said hi.
You said something interesting I read about Citadel, that it's about sort of like it being a stronghold of sort of human form, and this is kind of stories beyond human flesh and stuff. What do you think happens when you die?
Probably the hardest and best question I've been asked in an interview.
On tour, there's basically two things that Zen does more than anything else. And one is spend time in churches and spend time in cemeteries.
So this is quite...
So I'm not really sure the meaning behind all this, but that's where he always is every day.
Really, I go there just to get away from the rest of the band.
And it's always very, beautiful, and the acoustics are nice.
Everyone leaves me alone. Yeah. If you've got that one guaranteed in life thing, which is death, the one thing we had a discussion about this a little while ago about how would you die?
That was in Vagos in Portugal. Yeah, we were standing on a bridge, and we were talking about what it would be like to die falling off the bridge. I don't know, how did we get onto that?
Completely sober.
You were saying that burning alive would be an interesting way to die. Actually, your exact words was, that would be of interest to you.
Purely because at the end of the day, if you're going to die and you know how you're going to die, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So
goth.
Because
I spent a lot of my teenage years in cemeteries as well.
Yeah. So in doing that, you might as well experience the most extreme way you can possibly go, which, burning alive may be one of them. And you don't really have a way out, so...
Whereas I told him that he's just fucking crazy.
How did you kind of explore this kind of stuff in the songs? How did you kind of turn this into music?
Depending on how I'm feeling, or... Wow. Sounds really dramatic.
It's dramatic music, yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's putting lyrics into music is cathartic. It's the music itself, while it's being written, I can write and sort of get a vibe of...
Give it a home.
Yeah, ultimately. I guess a vessel to be sort of spewed forth.
Okay, let's go for a really lighthearted question. What would be your porn star name, which is your first street and your first pet?
Hannah McIndoe.
Hannah McIndoe.
And mine would be Ginger Moonbeer.
Okay, so yeah, you've just been on this European tour. What were the festivals like? What's like a city that like Australia could learn a bit from in terms of, you know, the feel and the vibe and the shows and stuff?
We've done Europe 3 times in the last 6 months.
Just did another 6 weeks in Europe with a club tour
That's pretty cool.
with Cradle of Filth. So yeah, he's a very interesting, very intelligent fellow.
Yeah, did you have deep and meaningful moments?
We actually did have one over a bottle of wine until like maybe 7 or something in the morning.
Yes, very good. You guys found a,
Yeah, I mean, I find like we have a lot of common interests and that sort of thing. So he,
hanging out in churches and cemeteries?
yeah,
No, he really does, doesn't he?
he does.
If it was a movie, who would direct it and who would be the star?
Zen would be the star, and
Yeah.
I would direct it. Zen's
Cool.
the centerpiece. You know, you watch
Yeah.
the live show, he's there and looking all dark and evil, and
You do have different personas. You've got the persona down. Like,
The funny thing is, like, I mean, we're complete opposites in most things. We do, but somehow we've managed. Well, yeah. Not in every way, but in most things we're complete opposites. I mean, and that comes across, I guess, in the album and on live, and that's
that's why it works.
yeah. And I guess when we first started the band, like, it's probably, you know, if I didn't ask him to join the band, or we would never have crossed circles.
we were getting a bit sentimental on the plane home from Europe just last week, talking about, because it's been like 12 years that we've been in the band together.
You've been kind of married.
Yeah. Well, we've actually
kind of a bit
we've
married.
actually probably spent more time with each other than anyone else. Yeah.
Tim, you've played like violin since you were like 6 years old, right? What's your story with music?
I was a late bloomer, really. I basically, I mean, I grew up with music. However, I lived overseas and didn't really get the opportunity for a stable life in terms of learning an instrument or something like that. But it was only until I was a teenager and really, I guess, started screaming in my bedroom, and then, you know.
Not logical progression.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one does. Yeah.
And after a few years of doing that, I thought really wanted to start a band. And so, yeah, basically here we are, really. I mean, I started screaming, but then I wanted to basically learn to sustain for a longer period of time. So I went to singing lessons.
So you guys found each other on a forum, yeah? Like, which is like for me proto-social media.
How do you know all this?
I do research. I know it's really rare. You know, it's really strange. Try and be a real journalist. Yeah. You know, you attempt. Yeah.
I mean, I started the band with a few other guys, and I wanted a violinist or a cellist.
You know, just for a little colour.
Well, yeah, I
Little
wanted something a little more dynamic and a little different to what was generally in the Australian scene. And so I just looked online, a few music forums, and then one day I found him discussing stringed instruments in metal, and decided to message him and asked him along to a rehearsal, and just yeah.
Did you always plan to well, how did it happen? If you got him in as a violinist, when was like the moment where you guys decided to like sing and stuff?
We actually auditioned a few female singers to get them in the band, but we didn't really find anyone that was suitable. And after a while, I sort of put my hand up and said, I can sing a little bit. And so that's what we did.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I wasn't really very good back then, to be honest. Yeah, no, that would be a good way to describe my singing back then. Maybe a bare pass. Yeah, but I just sang a little bit, and I mean, some of our older songs, you know, I didn't really sing at all, or only just a little bit here and there. And I guess as I've become a better singer, you know, we've utilized, you know, my vocals more in the songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely like a slow progression. I was always very much the violinist that sang a little bit. It was probably actually with Citadel that for the first time I felt like,
You're all over that.
yeah, that I maybe was just as much a singer. Yeah.
But it's like a song that's particularly sort of resonant, came together really easy for this album.
For Devour Me Colossus, we had, before we went in the studio, I thought that was maybe going to be the best song on the album. And then when we were almost done recording, I thought it was like the worst song on the album.
It's a good sign.
And then we just changed we changed about 1 minute in that bit, and all of a sudden the second half of the song worked. And now a lot of people, you know.
They like it.
Yeah, that song's been received really well, and it's, you know, one we always included in our live set.